This tells me I'm live. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Vistage Malta Leadership Talks with me, Julian Azzopardi. I am the chair of the Vistage Malta Key Executive Group, and today I am joined by the one and only Angele Giuliano. Good afternoon, Angele.
Good afternoon, Julian. So lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you too. Thank you for joining us for these talks. For those who haven't yet been able to witness one of our chat-in-hours, as we call them, we started these during the COVID lockdown period in an effort to provide everybody out there with the insights that we typically provide you with during our physical meetings. Vistage Malta has been set up to support CEOs and key executives to take better decisions within their businesses, because the decisions they take affect their communities, their employees, and their loved ones. So as part of our purpose, we decided to try and help people who are going through potentially a tough time by continuing to provide the insights that our experts who join us during these meetings share with our members. Angele is one of those. Brief intro, I met Angele in my previous capacity as CEO of Junior Achievement Young Enterprise Malta, which is a local NGO, has been established in Malta for over 30 years, providing entrepreneurial education to kids in sixth form back then, but today they provide this at all levels of education. Angele was one of the judges of one of the programs, and I couldn't think of anybody better to talk about leadership in entrepreneurship, because not only was she a judge on the startup program, she herself is an entrepreneur. I have said enough. Angele, tell us a little bit more about your fascinating background.
Thank you, Julian. So hello, everyone, and nice to virtually meet you. So yes, I have been an entrepreneur for 22 years. And at the very, very beginning, when I was still quite young, in a way, I always say that it's great to start being an entrepreneur when you're young, because you can afford to make mistakes. So I was one of those people at the beginning, opening and closing businesses and not really knowing what I'm doing. But I knew I wanted an area related to technology. So my background academically is IT, information technology, and I always wanted to work in that sector. However, my first few companies were a little bit difficult, and at a point in time, I even burnt out. And I had to really stop being an entrepreneur for 2 years. I remember those 2 years were horrible. It was around the year 2000, around the millennium bug. And actually, I spent a year and a half, which I don't regret, being a full-time teacher of computer studies, of course. But that gave me the sort of energy to start again then. And 2001, I formed Across Limits, which is still my company today. And we are 19 years old. So I'm really happy that, this was fourth or fifth time lucky, depends how you count. So what do? We actually do technology projects, but international ones, especially in the areas related to education, health, and digital culture. So one of the problems that I found with my first few companies was that my values and the values of what I was doing didn't fully match, because I've always believed that technology should improve the world. But you can't always make business whilst improving the world. So I needed to figure out a business model where that could work. And I met the wonderful world of the European Union. And I found out that actually there is this great, big, magnanimous body that gives money for good things to happen in the world. And that is when I started applying with my company back then in 2001, before we were an EU member as Malta, and building systems and prototypes, which then were used in research, in hospitals, in schools, so on and so forth. So where some of my colleagues from university were building great software, but software that I would call traditional software, like databases, stock control, business process software. I went somewhere else with the health and education software. And doing that, I kind of understood how the wonderful world of the EU works. So after about 10 years, then we also spun off like a branch, still under the same company, Across Limits, that also does consulting for businesses that want to take EU opportunities. And I say it's EU opportunities, it's not funding, because many people tell me, you're an EU funding consultant. No, I'm not. I'm an EU opportunities consultant, which means I basically explain to people how they can actually gain advantage for their business through working with the EU, doing European procurement, doing international projects, and growing organically through there. Somewhere along the line, I became a business angel, so I started to invest in other people's companies. And just because I'm never busy enough, I'm also the president for the Foundation of Women Entrepreneurs in Malta, which basically means we do a lot of support to other women who want to start their journey into entrepreneurship on a complete pro bono basis. That was kind of the short version.
And to top that up, during a couple of years, you were a judge on JAYE's startup program.
Of course. Needless to say.
It wasn't full enough.
No, Mishek, I mean, I'm the thing is, if you want, as they say, if you want something to be done, give it to a busy person. I really believe in that. So.
Now we're talking about entrepreneurship, right? Leadership in entrepreneurship. And I want to try and take a little bit of a progressive stance towards this. And starting basically by the last comment. Entrepreneurship in Malta is not one of the first things that comes to mind when you think about the economic fabric, the business fabric. We are very entrepreneurial as a nation. However, the concept of entrepreneurship is still a little bit delayed in flourishing to the same extent as potentially our European counterparts. You mentioned the EU. I remember when I was working in the EU from 2000 to 2006, we were starting up the first, SME funding programs, research and development programs, and that sort of stuff. Everybody was talking about the whole cluster system, which was new then. And today, now we're seeing that the cluster system is sort of forming itself in Malta as well. But what is your view of the entrepreneurial mindset, the entrepreneurship concept in Malta? And I'm trying to take it from approach from the educational aspect of it, so giving a bit of insight from your participation in the JYE programs, how young people tend to see entrepreneurship as they progress through their own educational pathway, and then transitioning from education into the world of work, and then the next step, the economic fabric of Malta.
Well, I think in Malta we are still not mature enough when we talk of entrepreneurship, because when we between sort of normal people talk of entrepreneurship, most of the people hear business. And in the minds of the Maltese, saying businessman or businesswoman has a very different connotation to an entrepreneur. So sometimes in Malta, I feel that many people think that business and the art of making money is what there is to entrepreneurship, which it's not. I mean, like I told you, I struggled because by that definition, I am not a businesswoman, because I do not only chase money. I want to chase both my values and money in a way that they go hand in hand. And I think this issue, this discussion, this more social entrepreneurship style still needs to come here in Malta, although it is starting. And in fact, in schools, I'm happy also to note, apart from JAYE, there are a lot of different initiatives, sometimes also as part of EU projects or whatever, where when kids are asked to actually do something entrepreneurial, they try to solve a world problem. And this is so great. This is what we need. We need the kids that want things to be greener. We need the kids that want, to change and improve our outlook for anything, health, education, energy, transport. So I think we're getting there, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But I would say in the older population, so my age and older, I think when you talk of entrepreneurship, people mistake it for business. So it's in my mental split, it's a completely different thing.
And what would you say needs to be done in order to either reconcile the two or take full advantage of both?
Well, I think most of the people that are chasing money, they do that because most probably they think that more money will make them more happy. And I think one of the greatest things that I've tried to do is to really get these people sometimes that are brilliant minds, they are wonderful individuals, to join me and even go abroad and see all the other great ways that out there they are fixing problems and still making money. So I think what needs to be done is more experiential learning, if you want. So these people that are only thinking of business, money, power, they need to experience what it means, the profits that cannot be counted on a P&L and balance sheet, but can be counted, for example, in, how many autistic children can smile again. Julian, something that I keep for myself when I'm going to have a very tough discussion with my accountant and auditor, God bless her, she's an angel, is I have my own social balance sheet that I add to every year. And every year I add this list and I don't share it with anyone. It's my personal list, it's not. And this social balance sheet for me, in it, there's a list of, for example, I was involved in clinical trials with elderly people with dementia, with severe dementia sometimes in Northern Ireland and the Netherlands and Sweden. And the number of families we helped, like this thing of the autistic children, that was another. I will never forget this father that after one of our projects, he came to talk to us, to tell us that after 6 months, his child could look him in the eyes and smile. Wow. I mean, what's the price of that, And I keep this at the side. Of course, our accountants and auditors count pounds, shillings, and pence, or, euros and cents. So you can't count that. But it makes me feel happy whenever I'm having maybe a financial year, which is a little bit tougher than usual.
I think that is one of the most amazing things I've heard so far. A social balance sheet. I really love that. So you account basically for the people you've helped, the good you've done, the hours you've spent doing these social projects, your volunteering, and all that kind of things.
Exactly.
I think that's brilliant. I think from a corporate responsibility point as well, it's something that a lot of entities should start to adopt, because a business is much more than the bottom line, like you are absolutely saying. And in a lot of the conversations we are having with people during this COVID period, which has led to a lot of people to start to doubt and to reevaluate where they are within their business, etc., to focus a lot on their value statements. So really looking beyond the bottom line and looking at what value you're bringing to the market, to the community, to the people who are around you. And I think this is a brilliant way to keep this in mind. And it helps people really deal with tough situations. Because, like you said, even though we are entrepreneurs or we are entrepreneurial, and this is something else I'd like to touch upon, but before we do that, entrepreneurs can go through downturns as well. They can also struggle at times. And I know that we were having a bit of a conversation before we went live that this also happened to you.
Yeah. At the beginning of COVID, the first months, I really struggled because, as you can imagine, I am normally always traveling, always doing workshops, conferences, trainings, meeting people. Even if I'm not meeting people, I'm in the office with my employees. So all at once, to go from all that to, like, these four walls here in my home, it was difficult. I mean, I was very close to really becoming depressed. And the one person that helped me was my partner, my partner in life. He is Finnish and calm. To say the least, yeah. Whereas I am, the usual Mediterranean panic. So I was like, oh, no, I'm feeling bad. And he was like, it's okay. It's going to pass, So again, one of the things, behind every great entrepreneur or person or whatever, the support of the family, how important it is.
Absolutely.
And something, sorry, Julian.
No, I'm just agreeing with you. I'm not.
And one of the things I started doing is actually keep a gratitude journal. And it's stupid, but every day in the morning, I had this journal. It must be printed somewhere here. If I find it, I'll show it to you. And every day I had to think of one thing I'm grateful for today, whilst I am logged into this room, house.
Again, another great reminder for those out there. I mean, actually, two great reminders for those who are watching this out there is the issue of support. I mean, part of what Vistage does is actually provide peer-to-peer support. And the reason why we have these chat-in-hours is to continue providing support. Because a great entrepreneur has a great support network.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people think that entrepreneurs are either bulletproof or they just have it in them, or because they are wealthy, they can provide for themselves or afford all this stuff. But really and truly, a lot of the support they get are the support they get basically for free sometimes, from their life partners, from their family, from their friends, from their mentors, and their coaches. And I think it's a really important point that you brought up. Identifying a proper support network is crucial for being a great entrepreneur, for being a great entrepreneurial individual. And the second thing I think that is a brilliant point to remind people is always be grateful for something. And that's one, we either start our sessions with that or we end it in our case. We either start off by asking people who are in the room, or when we have these remote sessions, what are we grateful for today? It helps bring a lot of perspective when things tend to be a little bit shady or things tend to be a bit tough. But they go hand in hand, because oftentimes we find that the people in the room are grateful for the people in the room, for the support that they have to deal with the issues that they're processing. So it's really, and it doesn't have to be, but it goes to show the power of the support network, because most people will be grateful for it once they have it. Now we mentioned the difference, or we didn't say the difference itself, but we mentioned being an entrepreneur and being entrepreneurial. A lot of people say, yeah, but I'm not an entrepreneur, and they'll be running an organization of, 100 to 100 people. And we also touched upon this before we went live. What's your take on the difference between being an entrepreneur and being entrepreneurial?
I think being entrepreneurial is a trait, is a way of life. And it's not whether you are, again, generating money or not, or whether you are the shareholder or not. But the the characteristics of entrepreneur, okay? The fact that you are able, to build something out of nothing, to take risks, to be the linchpin of an organization, bringing people around you, having a mission and a vision, and then having the rigor to stick in it and go through it until the bitter end sometimes. Although sometimes you have to know also when to stop and you say, okay, this didn't work out, sorry. But all of these, it's not the shareholder certificate which makes you an entrepreneur. It is the attitude towards life. And that if you go through life with a curiosity, with a creativity, in a way, a happiness to really change things, hopefully for the better, I think that makes you entrepreneurial, whether you are actually the person on the shareholder certificate or not of a company.
Agreed. And you mentioned understanding when you need to admit that you're either wrong or you need to stop. And before, you also, in your introduction, you mentioned that you had to call it quits
several times.
How is it to understand the value of, let's use the term, even though it's not the right term, of failure?
No, let's call it what it is. It is failure. But I think, like always, and this is not a cliche, it's a learning opportunity. Because I think everybody's allowed to fail. Just don't repeat your mistakes twice or three times. So, in this case, every time I failed, I tried to understand why. Now, I was still very young. I was, to early 20s. So sometimes I didn't even understand myself why I failed. And then I restarted something with the same problem sometimes. But actually, when I had that break, when I told you I burnt out and I had that break and I could think, then I could figure out what went wrong. And the next one I did then is still with us today. So I think really there's a lot of power in failure. And, those that don't fail don't learn sometimes.
But are we allowing ourselves to fail actually? Because there's so much pressure. I mean, from early on, kids in school, there is, forbid.
Boo-boo.
Yeah, boo-boo. Are we allowing ourselves? Does the system, including the whole banking and financial institutions set up, does it allow us to actually take these kind of risks? Because typically in Malta, we're not all that, risk focused. We're, on the contrary, we're a little bit cautious in that respect, right? And now I'm asking your business angel hat, to talk about what are you looking for? How as a startup environment, as a entrepreneurial environment, what's lacking? What do we need? How do we need to actually change this perception, or actually this actual structure, in order to allow people to fail and get back on their feet much quicker? Because you can very easily be blacklisted the moment you close a business, or you quit, or something goes wrong.
Yes, unfortunately in Malta, failure is not seen in a good way. And, I'm not a big fan of the United States, I have to say, but in this, I think we need to learn from them. That in the US, they say, unless you failed 2 or 3 times, you will never become a real entrepreneur. I think in Europe and also in the Mediterranean, we are a little bit too traditional culture-wise. We hide our failures. We don't share them. We don't tell people, listen, I made a boo-boo, this happened. How can I fix it next time? It's just we prefer to internalize it, make ourselves sick, tell no one about it, and then spend a lot of money going to the psychologists. But, we could really help ourselves and help the world by actually accepting, you know what? Yes, we failed. Now, why? How? could I have done differently? And talking about it. Unfortunately, our financial system is not great. So if you tell me what we should change the rules of how you get bank loans and how you get even accepted for procurement, because when you go for tenders, you have to tick, I've never been bankrupt. You know how many times you have to tick, I've never been bankrupt? And every time I've closed the company, I had to be careful that I didn't bankrupt it. So because of this, whereas had I been abroad, I would just say, paciencia, patience. But this, I think, is something that we need to change. We need to change the rules of the game completely so that we can finally, if need be, fail and fail spectacularly, but still have some sort of, ability to then restart. So in a way, it's not just the mentality we have to change. We have to change the processes, because it is the processes which are making us change the mentality.
And from a business angel point of view, what are you looking at the moment in general? I mean,
well, I receive so many different pitch decks. I, of course, try to invest in things which diversify my portfolio a little bit. So even though I'm still kind of, in the health and education spectrum, but I still try to go for things which can scale up much quicker. Because I'm in services, I try to invest in products, to kind of have something different. There's a lot because of COVID. I have to say that in a crisis, I think this is when we see the ingenuity of people. Necessity is the mother of invention for a reason. It is now necessary to be inventive because of COVID. So during this period, like I was telling you before we started recording, I've been doing a lot of mentoring and a lot of business angel support also to ladies, because that's my focus, but that are in these sectors, these strange sectors which are suffering, like tourism. The tourism sector is really not normally an area I work with, but because they are trying to look at, for example, these digital nomads as a new type of tourism, I felt I could help with my digital knowledge to these people. So I've been getting quite a lot of interesting things, a lot of support networks remote, a lot of business conferences, which are all not in one place, but like this. So I'm seeing a lot of new ideas, of course, a lot of health because of COVID. There's been a lot of health money and health investment, and therefore we're seeing a lot of startups in the health sector, digital health, and not only digital, even like, medical gadgets and technology and equipment and so on and so forth. Even not directly related to COVID, but like things that can support more remote care and medical support, so that we try to meet less, maybe with the elderly, rather than they have to go to a doctor, they can do more telemedicine, kind of the old word. And so yeah, I've been seeing a lot of those.
In that respect, are you evaluating the business potential, or are you evaluating also other things behind the proposal, like who's proposing it, the reason why they're proposing it, the individual themselves?
I see the team first, because if the team is wrong, even with a great idea, they're not going to do anything. So first for me is the team, then it is the product or service, whatever it is, and then the market opportunity. Of course, market opportunity and product again go together. So if it's a great product but no one wants to buy it, it's useless. But for me, it starts with the team, because if I have a good team, I can shepherd them gently, gently, slowly, slowly in the right direction. If I have a team that I can't work with, then it's like, adios. We're still friends, but thank you, no thank you.
Yeah, yeah. You also mentioned the emphasis on female entrepreneurs, and you are the president of the foundation for female
Women entrepreneurs.
women entrepreneurs. Tell us a little bit more, first and foremost, what does the foundation actually do?
Sure.
And how do you support women entrepreneurs?
Okay, so we are now about 17 years old, or something like that. So we've been around for quite some time. We're a non-profit making foundation. So our aim is, normally we give support like informal mentoring, and by informal mentoring is like, meet for a coffee and a chat, kind of, not have something with a time and clocking and whatever. We also do training sessions for entrepreneurs. We do events, our annual event once a year, that we do it in collaboration with other also women organizations here in Malta, is every October, November. It's called the Women Mean Business, and I think we are in the 6th year this year. Before, we used to do something called a Female Business Cafe, and then it became bigger and bigger, and then it became a conference, which we do once a year also with the support of the Ministry for Small Enterprise, who normally fund the location. This year, I guess we're going to do it remotely. We're already starting talking with the others. So we try to support informally. We give hints, tips, explain to them what's a business plan. We sometimes in the past used to go with them even to the banks if need be, just to sit there while they talk to the bank manager. You see, our focus is women who have not yet made the jump. So there is also another association that we work a lot with, the Malta Association of Women in Business. And many people mix us up, both of us. So we, FWE, we focus on those who have not yet gone towards, made the jump to become entrepreneurs. And MAWB, sort of, once they are fully formed and fully fledged, and kind of they graduate from us, they kind of move on to them. So we collaborate a lot between us, because we support each other a lot. And it's a myth that women do not work together. We work together a lot. And in fact, we are all in one big organization called Empower, which, I don't know if you've heard it. It's under the auspices of the President Emeritus, Mary Louise Colero Preca. And she brought together all the women organizations under one roof. So we do work together, help each other, try to focus on things where we are, in agreement, of course, which sometimes is tough to find, but we manage. So yeah, as a foundation, it's very informal. We have a Facebook page. People can contact us. Of course, we have a website. They can drop into our offices. At the moment, they can't, but we can do it remotely.
And given even COVID, some would say access might have become a little bit more, I'd say a bit easier, because they can just schedule a call and we can click a button and start chatting. Have you seen a growth? You said that you've been around for a number of years. Have you seen a growth in the uptake of women in business?
I've seen a growth from abroad. I haven't seen a growth from Malta, right, if I have to be honest. So most of the time, we get contacted not just from Maltese ladies, but either from expats living in Malta, or else even from abroad, because we are then in the Mediterranean Association of Women in Business, all of these large conglomerates, kind of. And yes, from abroad, I've seen an uptake. From Malta, Unfortunately, not so much. Now, I don't know if that was why the reason that maybe, I don't know, women who had the kids all at once with them at home had to become, teacher, mommy, worker, entrepreneur, and difficult to juggle. I have no idea why, so I can only speculate. But for sure, maybe we go back to the risk aversion, that maybe in Malta, in this time of risk, people were even more afraid to start something new. But I really don't know, Julian. I don't have the data to give you a proper informed opinion.
I remember that before, obviously, the whole COVID outbreak, I attended an open session. I think it was by the Malta Business Network, if I'm not mistaken, and they were talking about the need to increase representation of women on boards. And the conversation was about not necessarily positive discrimination, so really trying to give a push towards companies to get more women on the board. It's just a matter of getting everybody to understand that there's a huge benefit if there are more women in business.
Yeah.
Why is this not necessarily taking shape in Malta? And what do you think we need to do as a community, as a society, even ourselves? If I had to ask you to give me advice as a Vistage group to encourage women to participate in these kind of activities, do I need to single out women?
Yes, I think unfortunately, even though I hate the whole concept of pink quotas, but unfortunately, until it comes into our minds as second nature, that if I have a board of 4 people, they should be 2 men and 2 women, then we're going to have to force our hands a little bit. And I think the reason is twofold, and both are wrong. On one hand, it's the women that do not have the self-confidence to come forward. And this is where, as the foundation, we work a lot. We work a lot on soft skills, we work a lot on self-confidence, on helping these women, believe in themselves. And then on the other side, it's kind of, the patriarchal society in a way, which throughout the years has always been there. It's the incumbent, it's the status quo. They don't vote against themselves, do they? So you see, both attitudes are wrong. Both sides need to change. So I'm not one of those that it's the men's fault. No. It's both the men's and the women's fault. Both sides are, one side is too shy and the other side is too comfortable where they are. So if I were to tell you as Vista, yes, if you remember that a little bit more than half of the world population is female, which means that your clients' clients are women, the fact that you would have women in your board might help you to give better support to your clients, whether they are male or female, so that they can then understand the consumers out there a little bit more. So there's a lot of this, unfortunately, hidden gender bias, which sometimes we find. And it's not because someone doesn't want to. It starts from, but what do I ask? This is an honest question that many when ask me. Most of my friends, because I did, IT at university, are guys. And they tell me, but apart from you, who would you suggest? And maybe you don't know that there is actually a directory of professional women in Malta, which is held by the NCPE, the National Commission for the Promotion of Equality, where whenever you need to find a woman for any particular skill, you can go, you can search, and you will find. And then there's, of course, the usual LinkedIn and Facebook or whatever. But, if you want the formal route, there is one. So you can't hide behind ignorance.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And today with social media and everything else, IT itself, it has facilitated that visibility. And one potentially the final question that I have at this stage is going back to the issue of the structure, the fabric, the basic fabric. What can be done in order to, from an organizational point of view, be done to further facilitate and allow women to enter business in a more proactive, guiltless manner, because women, unfortunately, I see my partner as well. I know we only have dogs. We don't have children, but there's an innate sense of responsibility to take care for the dogs, and sometimes at her own detriment. So I would say, go ahead. I'll take care of the dogs. You might come back and find me without any hair, but it doesn't matter. What can we do? What needs to be done in order to facilitate this further?
Well, I think in a way, and this might be even better now with COVID, or at least more acceptable, to allow flexi work. So flexi work means that, if you have a woman colleague or employee or manager or whatever, if she needs to come to the office at 6 a.m. and then leave at 2, let her do that. You've anyway taken your 8 hours of work. Or let them work from home. Now it's the best time to do that. Be open to ideas, and when you engage in conversations with the ladies in question, modulate a little bit the words that you use. So unfortunately, and in a way, I learned this in a funny way, because at university, I was the only girl with 17 boys. Okay. So after 3 years of university, I was talking like them. So automatically people assumed, she's a bad person. It's like, I will not say the word, it starts with a B. It's just because of the words in your vocabulary that you use that sometimes men, even though they are not aggressive, they are nice people like yourself, but sometimes the words that you use are a little bit too forceful, and to some women that is like, no, I'm not sure I like this, no, I don't feel well here, it's not my kind of space. So it's little simple things to make the ladies feel more welcome, I would say.
Okay, very interesting. I think we've covered a lot of topics and subjects. We're nearing the 45-minute mark here. Are you what new projects do you have on your plate right now? Anything else?
Right now,
pipeline?
Well, at the moment, we are moving, of course, like everybody, as much as possible of our services online. So, all of the, like you guys, all of the training that we do, we're recording videos and we're putting them in a new platform. We've launched a new YouTube channel, trying to get people over there. So we're doing a lot of that sort of housekeeping internally. But externally, what we're doing is we're seeing a lot of these new opportunities with the Green New Deal of the EU and all of these COVID opportunities. There's a lot of procurement at the moment. So at the moment, we're actually busier than usual. Normally, summer is quiet. But this year, it's been like week after week, tender after tender. And we participate in international tenders. I'm not saying Maltese tenders. But international tenders, good money, they have been popping everywhere, and so far they don't seem to be stopping. So at the moment, we're doing a lot of both from the consulting and from the IT in education or IT in health. There's a lot of new opportunities coming up there.
That's great. And I guess because of COVID as well, probably the timeframes for all this have had to be delayed and obviously pushed into the summer, because budgets need to be spent. Otherwise, they will get lost, especially if we're talking about EU funds and stuff like that. So, but it's been great, Angele. thank you very much for your time and for sharing your thoughts with us. For those of you who need some insights, you know, Angele is always happy to meet, even though now it's a little bit more remotely than she would like to. But same from our perspective, Angele, if there's anything that we can do as Vistage or as the coaching firm to help you, the foundation, in terms of coaching and leadership training and mindset perspectives, we are happy to assist where we can. We will look forward to seeing more about I know you were running a lot of videos, daily videos, right? And insights on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So keep on following that. And best of luck with the tenders and the procurement that you're running.
Thank you, Julian. It's been a pleasure, and maybe, you know, we can invite you to be part of the speakers this year for the Women Mean Business also event. So we'll have a chat about that later. But definitely, you know, it's always great to have a chat with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching. If you missed it live, you can watch it again on our Vistage Malta Facebook page, as well as on our Vistage Malta LinkedIn page. If you haven't yet liked, do so you can get latest updates on the next Vistage Malta Leadership Talks. Thank you very much and have a great afternoon.
Bye.